Okay, so now we're ready for the second part. All of the problems, or most of the problems in this part of the lesson, will require you to use the explicit formula, okay, which is used more often than any other one of the formulas than a recursive formula. So the explicit formula requires you to write a sub n equals a1, which is the first term, plus or minus the common difference, and you'll multiply that by n minus 1. Alright, so let me try to rewrite that a little bit neater so everything can fit on this side. Okay, so this is the generic formula. You will be filling in a number for A1, D, A1 and D, and N if they give you the N. If they don't give you the N, you will simplify what you have, okay, which means you will still have an N in your formula. So this is what we're going for. This is what we're using for the explicit formula. Remember, this is the shortcut to find any number term that you want to find in the pattern. So here they gave me that the first term was 6 because it says A1. That is a little 1. Your D is 3, which means the pattern is 3. And your N is 12, which means they are asking me to find the 12th term. Okay? It's important that you not only know how to use these numbers, but you know what they represent. So this one is the first term. And D is the pattern number. Alright, so let's plug it into our formula. So we'd have A sub, I see an N. What is our N? 12. It says right here, N equals 12. So A12 equals A1, which is the first number, which is 6, plus D, which our D is the pattern number. This is how we continue the pattern, is 3. Alright, and then we multiply that by N minus 1, where our N is 12. So we put in the parentheses 12 minus 1. Now you can type this side of it in your calculator and simply press enter. So I'm going to do that. So 6 plus 3 parentheses 12 minus 1. And make sure that you're putting minus 1 and not negative 1, or you will get an error. You will also get an error if you do not close your parentheses. So make sure you do that in your calculator. And then we press enter. Alright, so the 12th term in this sequence is 39. Alright, and we're ready to move to the next one. So our formula is A sub n equals A1 plus D times n minus 1. Alright, now where you see this R, this should be a D. Okay, I'm sorry, that should not be a D. That should be my N. So let me clear this up here. This should be an N. Okay. Alright, so now we're ready to plug into the formula. So A sub 2, because that is the number for N, equals A1, which is 5, plus D, which is 7, times N, which is 2, minus 1. And again, you can type in everything that's on the right side of this problem to give you your answer. So 5 plus 7, parentheses 2 minus 1. And we get 12. So that means the second number in this sequence is 12. Okay? Alright, remember the first number was 5. If we wanted to look at it that way, the first number is 5. And we would continue the pattern by adding, we would continue the pattern by adding 7. Alright, now down here, look, they told us to find the third, the fifth, and the 10th number in the sequence. So we're going to have to write our explicit formula 3 times. And the only thing that's going to change is the n. This is the n, this is the n, and this is the n. Notice that the D and the A1 stay the same. The only thing that's changing is the number of the term they're asking us to find. Okay? So we'd have first, when we use 3, we'd have A3 equals the first number in the sequence, which is 2, plus the pattern number, which is 6, times n, and our first n for this problem is going to be 3 minus 1. Alright, then we're going to set it up again, but we're going to set it up for 5. So A5 equals the first number, which is 2, plus the pattern number, which is 6, and in the parentheses, instead of 3 minus 1, I'm going to have 5 minus 1, because our n is 5 this time. Okay? Once again, remember the n tells you which term to find. We're finding the 5th term in this problem. We're finding the 3rd term in this problem. Alright? Then we have A10. So we're finding the 10th term in this one because my n is 10. Okay? So A10 equals A1, which is 2, plus D, which is 6, times 10 minus 1. Alright? Now let's type these in the calculator one by one so that we can find our answer. Alright? So 2 plus 6, parentheses, 3 minus 1. And we get 14. So the 3rd number in the sequence is 14. Now let's find the 5th number. So 2 plus 6, parentheses, 5 minus 1. And we press enter. We get 26. So the 5th number in this sequence is 26. Now let's find the 10th number in the sequence. So 2 plus 6, parentheses, 10 minus 1. Alright, and we have 56. So the 10th number in the sequence is 56. So Ms. Hall, you can pause the video. I want to allow the students to try number 12 by themselves. Alright, so to find 12, I hope that you really tried to do it. We're going to set it up the same way. Remember, your formula is over here. So we're going to have A3 because that's the first n. We're finding the 3rd term. Our first term this time is -8. Our pattern number is 6, so D is still 6. And we're going to do 3 minus 1 because n is the number that is the pattern. I'm sorry, n is the number of the term you're trying to find. Alright, let's find A5. So I still have -8 because we're still starting at -8. The pattern is still to add 6, and we do 5 minus 1. Alright, for our last one, remember we're looking for the 10th term in the sequence. So A10, because this represents the 10th term, equals -8 plus 6 times 10 minus 1. And we're going to type it in the calculator to find our answer. Make sure when you type in the -8 that you type it in as a negative sign. That's on your white keys on your calculator. Plus 6, parentheses, 3 minus 1. We get 4 for the first number. Okay, that is the 3rd number in the sequence is a positive 4. Alright, now let's look at the 5th number in the sequence. So -8 plus 6, parentheses, 5 minus 1. This time we got 16. So the 5th number in this sequence is 16. Alright, and then let's find the 10th number in this sequence. So -8 plus 6 times 10 minus 1. And we get 46. Okay? So that is the third number, the fifth number, and the 10th number in this sequence as follows. Okay? Alright, so now we've done 11 and 12. Let's look at numbers 13 and 14, and this will conclude the lesson for today. So this one asks us to write and simplify the explicit formula. Now I'm going to write my generic explicit formula over here. So we know it is a sub n equals the first number plus the pattern number equals n minus 1. Now notice in each one of these problems, they have not given us an n. That means the variable n is going to stay in. So all we're going to do is plug in our a1 and our d, and then we're going to simplify it by using the distributive property and combining like terms. So let's look at our first example, number 13. 13 says a sub n equals, the pattern says a1, so my a1 is 2, plus the d, which is 6. Remember, that's the common difference, the number that continues the pattern. And since they did not give me n stays the same. Now, this would be the answer if they did not tell me to simplify. Okay? Since they said simplify, we must get rid of the parentheses here by using the distributive property. So remember, when we use the distributive property, we're multiplying the number that is sitting right next to the parenthesis with every term that is in the parenthesis. Since 2 is not in the parenthesis, we just bring it down. Alright, now 6 times n, since it is a number and a variable, we simply put it together to get our first term, which will be 6n. Then we will multiply 6 times a negative 1. Don't forget the sign in the middle is the sign of your second number. So that will give me a negative 6. Now that the parentheses are gone, all we need to do is combine like terms, which will be the first number. In this example, we can combine the numbers, which are 2 and negative 6. Since this term has an n on it, I cannot combine it with any other term. So I'll just bring down the 6n. And when we combine these two terms, we're going to have 2 minus 6, which gives me negative 4. So they could write my answer like this, or they may switch the order and write negative 4 plus 6n. Notice this is the same as this answer. All I did was move the negative 4 to the front and the 6n to the back. Either of these would be correct. If you stop here, you will not get full credit for this problem. Okay? So you have to make sure that you simplify. This down here is completely simplified. Alright, now let's look at our last example. So we're going to do the same formula. So I'm using the formula that's over here on the side. And I'm just plugging in what I know. So a sub n equals my first number, which is negative 8, plus d, which is your common difference or your pattern number. How we continue the pattern is we add 6, and then we have n minus 1. So we will follow the same steps that we did over here. We will use the distributive property first. So we've got to distribute the 6. So I have a sub n equals, remember the negative 8, the first number just comes down, and we multiply. 6 times n equals a positive 6n. 6 times negative 1 gives me a negative 6. And at this point, we're ready to combine like terms. That is the number negative 8 and the number negative 6. So notice that I circled the sign in front of the number. That is very important. So if you're putting this in your calculator, that is negative 8 minus 6. 6. Make sure you put the 8 in as a negative using the white keys, and the subtraction sign, of course, using the gray buttons on the side of your calculator. So we get a sub n equals 6n minus 14. And if I don't see my answer written this way, remember they could switch it up and they could put the negative 14 at the beginning because the sign in front of him is his sign, and the 6n could be at the end. One of these must be the answer choice that I'm looking for. So this is write and simplify the explicit formula for each. And these would be my answers. All right? So now you're ready to work on your worksheet. If you have any questions, please make sure that you're asking your teammate that I paired you up with or Miss Hall, okay? And also remember your tutoring dates. So this concludes our last lesson that we're learning new for our CDA. You'll get a study guide next class. So please make sure you're doing your work and asking questions. Have a great day.